There are over 10 guns in Destiny, and so with so many to balance around and consider, surely some would fall by the wayside. Well, I'm going to take a look at 8 of them that Bungie has just absolutely completely forgotten about. Getting straight into it, we've got Warden's Law, the double-barrel hand cannon that shoots 2 bullets at the same time. And that's at the same time. It's not like Crimson that shoots 3 one after another. It literally shoots 2 simultaneously. This was an interesting idea because it could proc perks that take hits to activate twice as fast. And I mean, look at all these oh, wait. That one's actually not in the loot pool, it got taken out. And so we see the tragic flaw of Warden's Law, that there's really no point in having a gun fire 2 bullets at the same time if it doesn't do anything with that. Like, literally the only perk in its pool that takes advantage of this is Zen Moment. But hey, at least it gets it in both columns. Nowadays it's relegated to a sunset drop at the end of a strike. Honestly, I don't remember if you can actually get this or not still. And they haven't touched it in over 3 years, and it doesn't really do very much. On to the next gun, we've got the Cerberus +1. Ooh, look at those stats. This one's a hot one. I think this one's funny because I can't remember the last time Bungie said anything about Cerberus, and I'm sure I could look it up, but I don't have the time for that. What makes it interesting that Bungie has not touched on it is because the fall-off is actually backwards. It gains bullet damage as it goes further, and so you'd think that they'd at least take a look into that and like do something about it, but I guess not. It's fair to have that happen when you're missing 3/4 of the shot every single time it pulls. But the real tragic flaw here is the catalyst. The catalyst tightens the shot, does more damage, but it takes longer to fire. So the damage overall is going to be pretty similar. Obviously it's a little bit higher, but I mean the numbers are so insignificantly different that I don't think anybody would really notice. And I mean that's really like on the level of a balance patch, not really a catalyst level change. And so this thing has certainly languished because it's got really high damage output for a primary, but it could have been so much more. Next weapon I'm looking at is Xinjiang AR1. Whoa, 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 a green gun? Who cares? Why should Bungie waste their time considering green weapons when nobody is using any of them? Well, that's because this green weapon in particular has something very special about it. It's the only weapon of its archetype, a lightweight auto rifle. There are no other lightweight auto rifles, which is a little bit confusing, because surely if they had anticipated it to be a frame that multiple weapons would use, they would at least give us a blue at the same time this released in vanilla Destiny. But we don't have that. We don't have a gray, we don't have a legendary. I mean, maybe one of the exotics counts as a lightweight, I'm not sure. But it's kind of crazy that they just left it at this one and then just like completely ignored the frame altogether. They had 3 options. They could either make more lightweight auto rifles, change this one to like, I don't know, a precision or something, but they just left it as is and moved on to more important things like Curse of Osiris. Now let's move on to Coriolis Force. A lot of people dislike this gun and I don't think it deserves the hate that it gets. The first difference from it and a regular fusion is that it shoots sideways, not up and down. And a lot of people are like, why would you ever want to shoot sideways when every target in Destiny is more vertical than horizontal? Well, you don't exactly need every bolt in a fusion rifle shot to land on an ad to clear it. This is a very obviously ad clearing gun, and it's got 3 perks in the right hand column that all benefit from hitting separate targets. But another interesting thing about this fusion rifle is that all the bolts come out at once, like a shotgun. This makes it just a little bit extra unique, and I kind of wish that they would investigate in having a vertical one as well for a more crucible or single target focus. But I mean, this one's single target isn't bad. Obviously in the crucible it's not going to be very good, but most majors have a hitbox that is thicker than Drifter, so chances are the entire spread will hit anyways. And it does a lot of damage. The only time they've ever revisited this since the launch of Beyond Light is the exotic Delicate Tune, where hip firing shoots the horizontal spread and aimed on sights shoots the vertical one. And this is a fair compromise for PvE and PvP because you're probably aiming down sights in PvP every single time, and hip firing is more of a PvE activity. What would be nice is if this archetype was occupied by more than one weapon, and perhaps if it had more traits that would synergize with hitting multiple targets with it at once. The next weapon is a gun that just sort of unceremoniously appeared in players' inventories when it was added to the game. And not even into your menu. You had to go and recollect it when it first came out. And this is the Kavastav. I'm sure Bungie has some plan to bring back the exotic Kavastav, but how long has it been in the game and we don't have it? Like, why would they add it so early if there was no point in adding it? I mean, this thing would even be perfect for weapon crafting, and it's particularly funny that they didn't even bother giving it to us in a special way. I mean, maybe the New Light experience is a little bit different, but for veteran players, it's just another collections gun that you can pull out to meme on people, and that's about it. Where is the craftable exotic version, Bungie? The next weapon is and then I debated adding in all pinnacle weapons here, but in reality Bungie hasn't forgotten about most of them. Like, Wendigo is in the game again, its perk has been added to a lot of other things. Reservoir Burst from the Pinnacle Fusion Rifle is on a lot of things. All of the Crucible Pinnacles have constantly circulated around the meta, like the Recluse, the Mountaintop, the Revoker. All of them have been steadily adjusted through the years, and Bungie still probably thinks of them every time they try to balance their archetypes. But there are two particular pinnacle weapons that kind of stand out as being long forgotten, left in the dust. The first one is Breakneck. Onslaught is absolutely nowhere to be seen after it got gutted with a nerf. What it used to do is, if Rampage activated, it would just increase the rate of fire, and then it was changed so that once that rate of fire did increase, the damage also got substantially lowered. Like, yeah, it's a little bit more damage, but you're changing your fire rate for what? Like, a Rampage auto rifle, just normal, would probably still be good. Then you'd have a whole nother perk to work with. But there's a main problem with it that it kind of shares with the next one on the list, which is Oxygen. Poor Oxygen. Mega Nora is not worth 2 perks. Each precision hit with the gun gives you a stack of Mega Nora, which, when Dragonfly procs, it consumes all of the stacks of Mega Nora to make the explosion more damaging. Which Dragonfly might have been good in like year 1 or something, but it has been so far outclassed by so many perks, like Chain Reaction, Firefly, which does the same thing but adds an element to your gun instead of using the same one, Scorch, Jolt, all of that sort of stuff that spreads damage around. Dragonfly is probably held up from being the worst perk only by Underdog. Like, Dragonfly is so bad that even on launch, people said, this is not up to par with a pinnacle weapon. People were begging for it to be buffed as soon as it came out, and it has never been touched. But what Breakneck and Oxygen both have in common is that their perks can't really be transferred to other weapons. Because if you want Mega Nora, you have to have Dragonfly. So the only role you'll ever have is Dragonfly Mega Nora. And with Breakneck, if you want Onslaught, you have to have Rampage. Which kind of puts them in a pickle. They can't bring the perk back. The guns aren't particularly good enough to bring back on their own. I mean, Breakneck was great at one point, but now it's not. They're both sunset, so they're not seeing much use in anything. And so they've been left to rot along with Gambit and the rest of the undesirables. Well, those are the 8 most forgotten about weapons that I could think of. Leave a comment if you have a weapon that you feel like Bungie has long cast aside that should be brought back or adjusted in some way. I'd love to hear it. Anyways, I'm gonna go pull out Warden's Law again, shooting 2 bullets at once, having one still miss somehow, and experience damage fall off twice as fast as any other gun.
Come on, man. I'll be your Doug.